series of conversations with the winners of the Property Investors Awards 2024. In this episode, we'll be speaking to multi-award winner Mariam Radi. It's so lovely to have you on. And firstly, huge congratulations on your awards, because you not only just won one, not two, but you won 3 Property Investors Awards. So firstly, huge congratulations to you. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm a huge fan of the magazine, and I've read a couple of articles that you've done previously, so I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Oh, well, we're really pleased that you could come on today. Firstly, I want to go back a little bit in time if I can. And could you just briefly explain to our viewers how your property career first got started?
So my property career started when I was about 20. And that's when I actually started to get into the thick of it. My mom was an architect, and she had a love for properties. And every time we'd walk into a building, she would always point out little architectural designs that you might not notice. And so that instilled in me the same habit where I'd walk into a building and I immediately think about how can you make this better? And that kind of began my love for property, just off the back of my mom. When I first wanted to get started, I was nervous about taking out a buy-to-let and not being able to make the payments. And it was a new area, and I thought I don't want to gamble with more than I can lose. So I went for a buy-to-let. I know everybody says don't do that because you don't make a lot of money, and they're right because I didn't make a lot of money. But it was a safe space for me to learn, and I built contacts with contractors because I do small repairs, and when somebody moved out I could then renovate that space. I was still making the payments that I needed because it was generating an income, and that's how I started. Buy-to-lets, very, very safe. From that I went up a little bit and flipped a couple of terraced houses. Nothing too crazy. My budget was modest. I was pretty much buying something derelict and just make it habitable. It was only after a couple of those little projects where I wasn't making tremendous returns on investment, but that's also because I wasn't taking a lot of risk and I was being very, very careful. Did I think to myself, okay, if ever time to take it to the next step, now's the time. So that's approximately when I took the leap and went for the hairdressing salon that then won me the awards. But it sounds like it was an easy breezy journey. There was a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. And maybe I could have done it sooner if I just believed in myself. But I definitely didn't for a while. And I can see that trait with a lot of other young people. When you're meddling with something that you haven't done before, it's very easy to get into your own head. And I would open social media and I see all of these people on site, and they're actually, they've got hard hats on and they're building stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, if I tried to do that, whatever it is that I'm trying to build would just fall apart. Like there's no way that I could be on a roof, like hammering stuff together. But yeah, but I just tried to believe in myself and understand my strengths and ease myself into it.
Sounds really, really great. And I mean, it just goes to show that if you believe in yourself, look at what you can achieve. And obviously that you won 3 Property Investors Awards. Now we'll go on. I want to talk about more about the awards that you won. But firstly, how does it feel since you've won the awards?
Oh, it's so funny because there's a lot of people in the industry that I admire very much and I absolutely love. And I've known them for about a year or so. And I remember after I won the awards and they saw me, they said, we didn't know you were actually like good at this. I was like, wait a minute. And you were supposed to know me. So the reaction was hilarious because I had people that I encounter on a daily basis. And I said, well, what did you think I did? And they were like, we don't know. Like, we just thought you dressed up in outfits. I was like, all day? You thought you do anything all day? So the reaction was really quite funny from the people that know me. They were surprised because I don't share my stuff on social media. I'm trying to change that now. And then for the people that didn't know me, it was great that I now broadened my network and I gained contact with people like yourselves. And now I have so many additional people in my close circle that I wouldn't have ever met if it wasn't for the awards. So it's been amazing. But it's also instilled in me this belief of like, okay, you've done this, you have to do better. Like, what's next? This can't. I'm always, and I don't know if this is toxic or not, or no, but whenever I achieve something, I'm like, this cannot be the peak. I didn't get this far just to get this far. So I got the awards and I love him. And I look at him every day before I go to bed. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, right, okay, we've got to keep working. We've got to make sure that this isn't the peak, that this is just the journey. So
Exactly. Well, it sounds like your journey is going amazingly. And would you recommend people to apply to the Property Investors Awards as well?
I would, yeah. I absolutely. I think even if you don't think that you're going to win, because I applied last year and I didn't have a clue if I was going to win, and I don't think I really stood that much of a chance against Emma. She was incredible last year. But just being in that room and being up there as finalist, it kind of puts your name out there. I had a lot of people last year come up to me and ask me what I made finalist for, and that opened doors and conversations. And it's much easier to go to a judge and say, I made finalists and I didn't win. Do I have feedback? Because they've probably seen your application, your video, they have something to go based off of. And I was able to get a lot of good feedback that I just ran with, as opposed to if I'd never applied and I went to a judge and said, what can I do? They just give me blanket advice because they don't even know what I'm capable of. So I'd say apply. If you think you're gonna have a chance at winning, amazing. Take that chance. I did. It worked out great. Even if you don't think you have a chance at winning, I want to say go for it anyways because you can get great feedback that will just propel you the next time.
Yeah, that's some really, really great advice there. And I think as well, it's so good for networking as well. I'm sure on the night, unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I'm sure that you guys did loads and loads of networking and meeting new property investors. That must have been great as well.
Yeah, it definitely brought people from across the country, which was amazing because I live in London. And so every time I go to a networking event, very rarely would I bump into someone and they're like, yeah, no, I just invest in Liverpool, you know? But at the PIA, every time I met someone, they're like, yeah, we commuted from Scotland, from Liverpool, and it's just amazing because it brings all that knowledge and experience from around the country in one room. I loved it.
That sounds so, so good. So for anyone watching, please do consider to apply to the Property Investors Awards. And now going on to the awards itself that you won, I want to firstly start with Young Property Investor of the Year. Huge congratulations. Now, I wanted to ask you, I suppose the property world can be seen as quite male dominated. Have you found that through your property journey? Have you sometimes found it challenging to be a woman in the property industry?
When I first started and I didn't have my team of contractors, it was challenging because I was very underestimated. That could have been one of two things, either because I really was new and I really didn't have that same level of knowledge that I do now, or it could have been that I was, because I have an American accent, I quite like my fashion. I don't think I come across as somebody who can be taken particularly seriously when it comes to the construction world. And that's just because of my own personality. So I don't know that it has much to do with my gender. But I can't speak for all the women that have been in the industry because I've been really lucky in that I have a team of contractors that I put on every project, and there's a lot of love and respect between us. And a lot of my supporters in the industry have been men, and I've leaned on them a lot. I'd always pick up the phone and ask for advice and some of the judges. So although I've received support equally between men and women, I can't say that I have firsthand. I mean, maybe I haven't. I just haven't realized because of sifting, discriminating, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I get it because how I sound and my presence sometimes. But all of the men that I've met have been really accommodating, really supportive. Um, so yeah, but again, I can't speak for all of the other women because I don't want to take away from anybody else's experience. It could just be the case that I've been incredibly lucky in the people that have been in my path.
That sounds really, really great. And I think it's just important to say as well, like sometimes the property industry can sometimes feel quite lonely, but I think it's really, really great that there's such a supportive environment, particularly with the Property Investors Awards as well, as we were saying earlier about networking and just meeting people from all different walks of life. So I think it sounds like you've had a really, really great experience, which is great. And now moving on to the property deal of the year. Again, congratulations. So I know you were mentioning, I think you gave us a little bit of a snippet earlier, but can you talk to us about the deal that won you the award?
Sure. Um, so I was still in the realm of wanting to go for buy to lets because each flip that I've done was a bit modest, a bit small. So if I was going to go for a flip or a development again, I wanted to keep it within something that I'd looked at before. And that's just me setting my own limitations because after having finished this deal, I can say that actually I've been capable of more for a lot longer. I just didn't believe in myself. And that was the case at the time. And so I found this HMO and it was offered relatively cheap. I want to say at least 5% below market price. And I went to view it with a bunch of guys and like iPads. It was an open house viewing, and we all put offers in, and my offer got rejected. And then I kept seeing it pop up on the market for about a year, kept coming off and then coming back on. And eventually I put an offer at 80,000 below market price because I thought at this point the sellers are trying to get rid of it, and it got accepted. So I was like, amazing. As long as this doesn't cost 80K to fix, it should be fine. I knew there must have been a problem with it because there's no way that all of these people are either not getting funding or have just straight up changed their mind about it. So we're like 2 months into conveyancing, and I'm out here trying to get funding, and I was young at the time, and nobody wanted to lend to me. So I was working on that, and my solicitor tells me that every time they send a letter to the other side, they're not getting a response. And it turns out she hadn't hired a solicitor for about 2 months because she'd lost faith that anybody would want to buy it. So I did a viewing of the property with her, and she showed me the basement, and she said, this basement belongs to next door, and that's the issue. She is illegally renting out the basement of the next door property. That's why nobody wants to buy it, because if you get it, you're inheriting a lawsuit. The property next door, she owned the freehold of it. So that's why she got a bit, I think she felt like she could rent out the basement. She didn't own the leasehold. The leasehold had 50 years left, and it was a hairdressing salon, so it was vacant for about 20 years. I saw it, I did my research on the owner of the leasehold, and I found out that he's in prison and his assets are seized by debt recovery. So a little light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, he's not gonna come fighting for this basement. He doesn't have any control over it, and debt recovery just wants their money back. I knew that they were going to try to sell it, and I knew the best course of action for me was to buy that hairdressing salon, cancel out the lease, and make it all freehold. Problem is, debt recovery wanted to sell it for as much as possible. I wanted to buy it for as low as possible. I set aside 150, and I made them an offer of 100,000. And I also dished out about 7 letters of claim. So I reviewed the lease, and I understood all the areas where they'd violated the lease. They hadn't paid ground rent, property was in a state of disrepair. And the thing about a letter of claim is you can sue anybody for anything. So I had about 3 letters where it was legit causes where they like violated the lease. And I had about 4 where it was ambiguous. Did they do this? Did they not? But you can put anything in the letter of claim. It's up to the other side to defend it. And with it being debt recovery, I felt ethically okay to do this. So I sent that out. They rejected my offer and they put it on auction. So I called the auction house. And this is actually why I drafted 7 letters of claim. They were then forced to disclose the history between the 2 properties, all of the letters, because legal responsibility transfers with ownership. After they disclosed all of this, nobody bid for it on auction. Now I put an offer of 100,000 because this was the lowest that I thought it'd be worth. I thought I'd have to go up to 150, but at auction I bought it for 96. So I should put it lower. I canceled the leasehold. There was no dispute about the basement anymore. We turned it into a 1-bedroom flat. It's 75 square meters in Greenwich, and it's currently worth about 425,000.
Amazing.
So that's what I got Deal of the Year and Young Investor. And the development was so much fun. I felt it was the first time where I wasn't limiting myself. So I developed it to the extent of my skills, and it turned out amazing. And I want to say the biggest takeaway is don't be your own biggest obstacle, to be honest, because I think I was just so wary of doing things in case I did them wrong. And this was the first time where I thought, okay, no, you know what? because in my mind, I thought if I'm gonna apply this to the awards, a lot of people are gonna come and look at it. And I want to make sure that what they look at is my best work. So I'm gonna put my best work into it. And then I did that and I thought, oh my God, I actually didn't know I could do this.
Wow. That sounds so amazing. And like, congratulations. Like, there seemed to be so many challenges that came with that, but it seemed that you just overcame every challenge that was thrown at you and to create just such an amazing award. I mean, oh no, I'm just in shock because I just think that's so amazing. And for the shortlist deal of the year, did you submit a different one, or was this also this award that you were just talking about?
The same one because it was a lease of 15 years. So I negotiated the freehold for free. It wasn't actually sold at the beginning. So I said to her, if you throw in the freehold, I'll take legal responsibility of the entire property. And she said, okay, but this is why you need good lawyers, because I would have taken legal responsibility anyways. Because it didn't really matter if she sold it to me or gave it for free or didn't give it at all. I was buying this property with a legal dispute in the basement. So I'd have to have looked at it. But yeah, that's how I got the freehold for free. And that's why the whole cost came to 96.
Wow. No, honestly, I'm just still in shock because I just like there's just so many like challenges that were thrown at you that like as you said like with the basement and stuff. And for anyone that's watching and they're thinking, how do I overcome these challenges when it comes to property deals? Like I suppose there's so many things that go with that, but what would you say is the best advice that you can give to aspiring property investors for property deals?
I'd say understand what your strengths are. So I have a legal background. I've got two law degrees. So when it came to the dispute over the land, that's something that I understood. But whenever anything else cropped up that I'm not an expert in, I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and ask somebody that does have experience in it. We want to go down the short let route, and there's I've been researching it online and watching videos, but ultimately I picked up the phone and I spoke to somebody who just does Airbnb management and shorts lets, and then asked them for advice about what I should do moving forward if I want this to be a profitable Airbnb. And so I'd say, one, look at your own strengths while you're working on your weaknesses, but know what your strengths are and how you can rely on them. And then two, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't suffer in silence. A lot of people in this industry are more than happy to respond to a DM or talk to you on the phone, or even if you meet them at networking events, they'll be more than happy to give you advice.
That's some really good advice there. And it sounds like you've had a really busy last 12 months. So what property projects have you got planned for in 2025?
So I currently have two in the pipeline. We've just completed on a property in Manchester that we're turning into a HMO. We're looking at 8 to 10. So we're going to start with 8 and then try to push it up to 10, potentially extend it. And then a residential house that it's actually going to be my new house, but we're doing the full wraparound extension, and I'm really excited to document these things. Yeah, both of them are in planning stage at the moment. So I'm trying to document different property stuff online because I told myself I'm going to start sharing. And I am on the lookout for more investments, especially on auction, just while I wait. Planning can take a bit long sometimes. So if I can get another project and flip it in the next 3 months while I wait, that'd be ideal. So I'm on the lookout, but all in all, I've got two already in the pipeline.
Ooh, that sounds really exciting. You'll have to let us know how those two projects in the pipeline go. And lastly, I want to ask you for any aspiring property investors that are watching, what advice would you give to them?
I would, to anybody that's aspiring to be anything, I'd say, is this what you enjoy? Is this what you love? Because if this is what you love, then you're going to learn it quickly, you're going to pick it up, you're probably going to do well because you're going to want to do it. And that's what it comes down to. If you love it, then you're going to do well at it. And I believe that if you're good at what you do, you're going to love it. If you love it, you're probably good at it. And yeah, so find a good, strong team of contractors. I know that isn't easy, but really make sure that this is what you want to do and this brings you joy. Yeah, I mean, I love the development side and the designing the floor plan side of it. And that's a huge part of property development. So that brings me a lot of joy in it. I know some people just love the construction side and they love to see how it actually gets built. Um, but as long as you love what you do, you'll do well at it. So find what you love.
Oh, oh, that's some really, really good advice there. And I think that's just the perfect note to end the interview on. So thank you so much, Mariam, for joining me today. It was really lovely to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.